Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I talk about all things homesteading, homemaking, and just the journey to a slower, more simple life. My name is Catherine, and in today's video I thought I would just take you with me on some of the things I get up to on a day-to-day basis throughout the week. Especially it being the winter season, it's going to look a little different than it will in a few months. So I'm just starting off by getting the dishes from the early morning cleaned up. I like to try to do dishes all throughout the day opposed to leaving them all at once for the evening. It just makes things so much easier. And I'm going to make two different kinds of sweet treats today, or at least get started with them. And the first one I'm going to get done is peanut butter cookies, and this is a really simple recipe. I haven't made them in a while, but they're really good. For your dry ingredients, you're going to want 1 1/3 cup of flour, a half teaspoon baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and that is all going to be in a separate bowl. For your wet ingredients, and it doesn't matter if you have a mixer or not, that's just what I have, you're going to want to do a 1/2 cup or a stick of butter, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a 1/4 cup normal sugar, an egg, a teaspoon vanilla extract, and 3/4 cup of peanut butter. And I like to use all natural peanut butter, but just know that different kinds of peanut butter will result in kind of different textures. So all you're going to have to do is mix your wet ingredients together first, then add your dry to your wet. Once you do that, you can put it in the fridge for at least a couple hours, but you can leave it in there for a few days if you need to. The peanut butter cookies I'm going to get back to today, but first I'm going to start on a different sweet treat that takes a day at least before it's really ready to go, and that is pastry dough. So for pastry dough, we're going to start with 1/4 cup of warm water and 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, and we're just going to mix that together and let it get bubbly. And you can see I am putting the butter we're going to use in the food processor, and that's just to kind of help break it down because we want it to be cold but also it to be dispersed pretty well throughout the whole dough. That's going to be 14 tablespoons of butter. And also for wet ingredients, we're going to do a 1/2 cup of milk, an egg, and then to that adding a 1/4 cup of sugar, and then 2 1/2 cups of flour. And so we just want to get that mixed together all nice and good, and then I'm going to fold it a few times. Part of what makes pastry dough really good is kind of the folds, the different layers to it. So you want to give it a few folds, and then you're going to want to store it in the fridge in something like plastic wrap for at least a day. I actually left it for 2 days and it was great. You can leave it for a few days, and then we'll get this back out when we're ready to use it. Pro tip, even if you're not going to do the dishes right away, put some water in things like bowls and stuff like that. It'll just make the process of washing it so much easier. And now I'm actually going to be making some scrambled eggs, And it might seem like one of the easiest things to do, but there's lots of ways to do it, and I was going to share so that you don't have any problems with it sticking to your stainless steel pans, because a lot of people want to get no stick so things won't stick. Don't do it. It's not great for you, so you can make things not stick in stainless steel very easily. I just start by putting butter, and a good chunk of butter, in the pan, and then in a big bowl I like to whip the eggs up. Doing it in a big bowl puts a lot more air in the eggs and makes it more kind of diner style scrambled eggs. Make sure the butter is distributed through the whole pan and covering the whole thing really well. And then this will work for scrambled eggs, or if you're making an omelet, just dump those eggs right in there and let them start cooking. And since I'm doing scrambled, I'm gonna not worry about keeping it uniform. I'm just gonna start pushing it in from the sides where it's gonna be the most cooked already, and just keep doing that over and over until they are cooked as much as I want them to be. And that's how you can make really good restaurant scrambled eggs. And almost every single day I do laundry. It is a constant, and I'm sure it is no different for you. And I did have some time, so I am actually going to do a lot of these dishes now. Like I've said before, anytime you can spare to just get some of the dishes done throughout the day makes you a lot happier in the evening when you have your nighttime dishes to do before you put the kitchen to bed. And I'm going to stop for a water break, and I just want to tell you, natural living is a big topic, but not enough people, in my opinion, talk about the importance of your water and what's actually in it. I'm lucky enough to have a company that supplies water straight from the spring, and it's all tested, so I know exactly what's in it, but a lot of people don't know what's in their water. So I would definitely recommend looking into different ways that you can get water, and bottled water is not great either because that's been shown to have PFAS as well. So I definitely recommend educating yourself in all things water first and foremost. And I forget to show the end result of these cookies, but you just want to bake them at 350 for about 12 minutes, and they turn out really good. And this is the nighttime sky. How beautiful is that? On this day, I decided to go through all my clothes. So how I keep things organized clothing-wise is I have a spring-summer season of clothes and a fall-winter season of clothes. And the clothes that are not in those seasons I keep under the bed. But as we're coming into the spring season, I am switching things around, and every single time I do, I like to go through it and get rid of anything that doesn't fit or just doesn't serve me any well that I know I haven't been wearing, because I like to keep my clothes quite minimal. This works really well for me doing it this way. Alright, this is the day I'm going to do something with my pastry dough, and this is a great base for any kind of pastry. I've made raspberry pastries many times. I'm actually going to use applesauce that I made and canned earlier back in the fall and use that as the filling. So I'm just going to take some flour to roll my dough out and get that all nice and thin enough for me. And I'm going to do a couple designs. I'm going to do one that's kind of a braided pastry, and the other two I'm just going to fold over and keep it really simple. I've done hearts and stuff before, so you can get really creative. I'm gonna go ahead and put my applesauce in the dough. You're going to want to preheat your oven to 400 for this one, and you're going to bake it for 19 to 22 minutes. You just want it to look really nice and golden brown when they're done. And as something kind of creative, I made a goat cheese icing. So kind of a take on cream cheese icing, but with goat cheese instead. It was very interesting. I just used goat cheese, some heavy cream, and some confectioner sugar, and you can play with those three ingredients of how much or how little you want of each of them, but it turned out really nice. And here are our finished pastries, just a nice golden brown, and I will say they turned out so good. I love pastries. So I'm giving my plants under the grow lights a nice water, and over the course of the week that I was filming this, they grew so much. It's so exciting to see them start popping up. I did take some clips of how far they came along on this day, but since I filmed it, they've tripled in size. Here's some videos of them just starting to peep up. And one of the final projects for the week is I'm going to render some lard. Now, lard and tallow, pretty much the same exact process. I got a big thing of lard, and I'm just going to get my Dutch oven, and I'm going to cut the lard into small pieces and go ahead and put that in my Dutch oven. And the oven is just going to be set for something very low, like 220, and all I do is leave it in there all day. So this is a project you want to do early in the morning, get it right in, and just leave it for the entirety of the day. And you'll get so much beautiful fat from this. So I use tallow and lard for a lot of different things. Contrary to popular belief, fat is actually very good for you, especially this kind of fat. It's definitely much better for you than something like canola oils, all these very highly processed fats. But one thing I don't do very often because it actually isn't that good for you is deep frying. But this is my first time going to try deep fried chicken actually. So I'm just taking flour, garlic powder, chili powder, and paprika and putting it in a plastic bag. I used about 2 tablespoons of each of the spices and some flour. I would personally use more of the herbs next time if I was to do this again, just because it was a little dull for my flavor profile, but it might be perfect for you. And so basically, I am just going to put the chicken breasts that I have into the bag and shake it up so they get nicely coated. Then, from the bag of flour and other things, we're going to put them into a combination of a cup of milk, a tablespoon of soy sauce, and 2 eggs. So we're going to go from batter flour coating to milk coating, and then back into the flour coating, and then it'll be ready for us to deep fry. You want to make sure the fat is very, very hot, so when you drop it in, it really starts bubbling. And cook your chicken in there until it is about 165 internally, and you'll be able to tell it'll be a nice golden brown, what you typically would think of when you think of what fried chicken looks like. And the meal really did turn out so good. I had the deep fried chicken with broccoli with some cheddar cheese and pickles that I grew myself in the garden this past summer and canned myself, and I love those pickles. They're so good too. So finally, I'm just going to sit down and do some knitting. I really enjoy knitting, crocheting, sewing, all those kinds of crafts, and I keep very busy, so I don't always have time, but in my downtime, that is what I like to do. I try very hard not to do things like scrolling or anything that I would look back and feel like it's time wasted. Yes, there is time for rest, but I don't think rest should be mindless. If anything, I think restfulness should be very mindful. I think that can be a little confusing sometimes because people may think that all rest is bad, which is not true, but other people may think that it's good to rest, so I can just completely turn off and be kind of nothingness, which is also not good. So activities like this are great for me because it gives me something to do with my hands. I can listen to a podcast or something that's educational or entertaining while I'm doing it. And when I'm done with it, it is something that benefits me or somebody else because I made something. So if you do have any downtime, which a lot of us don't nowadays, but if you do, I would highly recommend picking up some kind of craft. Well, that does it for today's video. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you like this content and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing so you can join our community of like-minded folk. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye!